Listen up, patriots. Congress just pulled off something that'll make anti-gun politicians lose their minds completely. We're talking about new pistol rules that could revolutionize carry laws in all 50 states through H.R. 38, the Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. This isn't just another political promise. This is the nuclear option for constitutional carry that's been 20 years in the making. Buckle up for All About Survival's deep dive into what these new pistol rules mean for every American gun owner nationwide. A constitutional earthquake that nobody saw coming. Here's what just happened that has the entire legal establishment buzzing like a disturbed beehive. The House Judiciary Committee voted 18-9, pushing H.R. 38 through with the kind of momentum that makes constitutional lawyers break out in cold sweats. But this isn't your typical political theater. This is the culmination of a decades-long legal strategy that's about to rewrite how your Second Amendment rights work in the real world. 24 state attorneys general just dropped the legal equivalent of a nuclear bomb by writing Congress a letter that essentially says, if someone's trusted to carry in Alabama, they should be trusted everywhere. When you've got the top law enforcement officials from nearly half the state saying the current patchwork system is broken, you know something massive is brewing. How Trump's Supreme Court strategy pays off. Here's where Trump's long-term constitutional chess game becomes crystal clear. The Supreme Court justices he appointed, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett, have consistently ruled to expand Second Amendment protections. This isn't coincidence. It's calculated constitutional engineering. The 2022 Bruin decision that changed everything? That was written by Justice Thomas, with Trump's appointees providing crucial support. Now, with Trump back in office and potentially more Supreme Court appointments ahead, the constitutional landscape for gun rights looks better than it has in decades. This creates the perfect storm for H.R. 38. You've got presidential backing, congressional momentum, and a Supreme Court that's already proven they'll strike down unconstitutional gun restrictions. The legal framework that changes everything. Let's break down the constitutional mechanics that make this so explosive. H.R. 38 operates on a brilliantly simple legal principle. Your constitutional rights don't disappear when you cross state lines. Think about it. Your freedom of speech doesn't evaporate when you drive from Texas to California. Your protection against unreasonable searches doesn't vanish at the Nevada border. So why should your right to bear arms be treated differently? The genius of H.R. 38 lies in its constitutional foundation. It's not creating new rights. It's forcing states to recognize the rights that already exist. Constitutional carry states get automatic recognition. Permit holders from any state get nationwide validity. It's like having a legal passport for your Second Amendment rights. But here's where it gets really interesting from a constitutional law perspective. The bill includes a provision that flips the burden of proof completely. If some anti-gun prosecutor decides to arrest you anyway, even though you're following the law, they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you weren't qualified. When they lose, and they will lose, they pay your legal fees. That's not just protection, that's constitutional deterrence with teeth. Real cases that prove we know this now. Let me tell you about Shaneen Allen's story, because it perfectly illustrates why this constitutional protection is absolutely critical. Pennsylvania mom legally owns a firearm, has her permit, drives into New Jersey for a birthday party, gets pulled over and, being the honest citizen she was raised to be, tells the officer she's carrying. Next thing you know, she's facing felony charges that could have destroyed her life. A single mother trying to protect herself becomes a criminal because she crossed an invisible line on a map. It took a gubernatorial pardon to fix that constitutional nightmare. But imagine the legal bills, the stress, the fear of losing everything over exercising a fundamental right. Fast forward to January 2025. Two truckers, David McCoy from Texas and Jeffrey Johnson from Georgia, decide they've had enough of this constitutional chaos. These guys drive through dangerous areas, have federal background checks for their TWIC cards, but Minnesota won't recognize their permits because of bureaucratic nonsense. Here's the constitutional absurdity. To get a Minnesota permit, they'd have to apply in person, pay $100, wait 30 days, then have it mailed to their home address. How is that supposed to work when you're on the road 300 days a year, keeping America's supply chains running? A federal judge threw out their case, but here's the kicker. The judge admitted their Second Amendment rights were implicated. Translation: yeah, your constitutional rights are being violated, but tough luck. That's exactly the kind of judicial double talk that H.R. 38 is designed to eliminate. The opposition's arguments fall apart under scrutiny. The anti-gun crowd has their talking points ready, and they're as predictable as they are wrong. They scream, "States' rights!" like it's still 1860. But funny how they don't complain about recognizing driver's licenses, marriage certificates, or college degrees across state lines. They worry about weaker standards, with New York politicians claiming someone who wouldn't qualify there can carry with a Florida permit. But the data demolishes this argument completely. Permit holders are statistically the most law-abiding demographic in America, with conviction rates lower than police officers. These are people who've already been background checked, fingerprinted, and trained. The International Association of Chiefs of Police claims verifying out-of-state permits will be too difficult during traffic stops. Really? In 2025, with computers in every patrol car that can instantly run plates from any state, they can't verify a carry permit? That's not a technical problem. That's a political excuse. What the courts are saying changes everything. While Congress debates, the federal courts are moving in ways that make H.R. 38 look inevitable. The Supreme Court's 2022 Bruin decision completely changed the constitutional landscape by establishing that gun laws must match America's historical tradition of firearm regulation. That Minnesota truckers case might have lost round one, but it exposed something crucial. The judge acknowledged that Minnesota's system burdens constitutional rights while offering no historical justification. When you combine that with Bruin's historical test, these discriminatory permit systems start looking constitutionally doomed. The 8th Circuit already struck down Minnesota's age restrictions for carry permits. The Supreme Court refused to reverse it in April 2025. The constitutional momentum is building like an avalanche, and H.R. 38 represents the legal framework that makes it official. Historical evidence that settles the debate. Here's the historical evidence that makes the constitutional case airtight. America has never restricted travelers' gun rights more than residents. In fact, many historical laws gave travelers more freedom to carry for protection during their journeys. The 1887 New Mexico territorial law specifically protected travelers' rights to carry arms, while actually prosecuting their journey. That's not modern interpretation. That's original constitutional understanding written by people who actually knew the founders. Court researchers have found zero historical precedent for permit systems before 1911, a full 120 years after the Second Amendment's ratification. When you apply Bruin's historical test to these modern restrictions, they collapse like a house of cards. Trump's promise meets political reality. Trump's been beating this constitutional drum since 2015, promising national reciprocity through 2 campaigns, and now into a second term. Don Jr. posted a video of his dad saying, "Full concealed carry reciprocity. The Second Amendment stays protected everywhere." Political math works differently now. Republicans control both chambers, and even some red state Democrats are reading the electoral tea leaves. When 29 states have constitutional carry, and the Supreme Court is backing expansive Second Amendment interpretations, opposing reciprocity starts looking like political suicide. The May letter from 24 attorneys general represents the largest law enforcement support for constitutional carry reciprocity in congressional history. When that many top cops say, "Pass this bill," politicians listen. What this means for your rights right now. This creates immediate practical changes for gun owners nationwide. If you've got a permit from any state, start planning like it'll work everywhere within the next 2 years. Manufacturers are already ramping up production because they see the writing on the constitutional wall. For law enforcement, the smart sheriffs are already signaling they'll embrace nationwide reciprocity. Sheriff's departments in constitutional carry states understand that law-abiding citizens with permits aren't the problem. They're part of the solution. The constitutional revolution that's already started. We're witnessing the final phase of a constitutional revolution that began with Heller in 2008, accelerated with Bruin in 2022, and reached completion with H.R. 38. Gun rights are about to become the most protected constitutional freedom in American law. The media won't tell you this, but regular Americans support constitutional reciprocity. Even many Democrats, when you explain it simply, want their rights to work the same way everywhere. It's only the political elites in anti-gun strongholds fighting to preserve this broken system. H.R. 38 represents our best shot at constitutional carry reciprocity in a generation. The stars are aligning. Trump's backing it, Congress is moving, and the Supreme Court is clearly the legal pathway. So subscribe to All About Survival for every update on this constitutional game-changer ride, because your Second Amendment rights depend on staying informed and engaged.